everybody, Jeff Miller, head of SAT instruction at Target Test Prep. Today I have a really cool video. We're going to talk about 10 tips on how to study for the SAT with a busy schedule. If you're just coming here for the first time, subscribe to our videos because more will be coming in the future. So let's get into it. Tip number 1, make SAT studying a top priority. Now, this may seem obvious because if you want to do well on the SAT, of course you should make it a top priority, right? But we have so much going on. Academics, your schoolwork, extracurriculars, a sport team, a musical instrument you play, whatever it is, SAT studying may slowly but surely get pushed aside. You can't do that. I know your schedule is busy. Most high schoolers' schedule is. So how do you fix that? You slip it into your schedule, whether you have to do stuff in the mornings, whether you have to take advantage of free periods at school, which we'll talk about more. It just has to take priority. Now, you may get to a point where you say, well, what am I going to do? Social, fun things that I enjoy, or SAT studying? At some point, you're going to have to make tough decisions. We'll talk about it more shortly about things that you push aside to make that SAT studying a top priority. If you can do that, you can fit your SAT prep into the busiest of schedules. Tip number 2, be realistic about your SAT study timeline. Thing is, if you think you're going to be done with this thing in a month, then you're not going to plan accordingly or effectively, and it's probably not going to go well on test day for you. So what do? I say this a lot. At the beginning of your prep, guess what? Take a practice exam. Get familiar with the SAT. Sit down, take a full-length practice exam, get your baseline score, and then compare it to what your score goal is, and then ask yourself, when should I take the SAT based on that? How many hours a week do I need to study to get to that score goal? And just map things out effectively. And if you can do that, then you can fit in the puzzle pieces into your schedule and ensure that you're doing the SAT prep that you need to be successful. Tip number 3, create a study schedule that works for you. Everybody has different schedules, different responsibilities, different activities that they're doing. So you got to really look at your daily routine. When do I get up for school? When do I go to bed? When do I do homework? When do I have free periods? When do I have after school activities? Is there a day where I have less going on and days that I have more going on? Do I have Sundays mostly free? These are just a few things that need to be cycling through your head so you can literally map out from Sunday to the following Monday when you will be studying. And you can make a study calendar if you want. You can write it down. You can get an app that has a calendar, but you need to have it written down somewhere so that you're holding yourself accountable and you're studying in a way that works for you. Obviously, you can't make excuses about things you have to do, but you can make it fit so it fits the best it possibly can in your life. Tip number 4, if necessary, break up your study sessions. Yeah, it might be ideal if you could study for an hour to an hour and a half at a time, but let's say you have 30 minutes to spare a bunch of times during the week, or 45 minutes to spare earlier in the day and another 30 minutes or 45 minutes later in the day. That's okay. As long as you're sitting down and you're focused for that 30 or 45 minutes, it's going to be effective. But if you sit down and you don't really know what you're doing and it takes 10 minutes to kind of get the gears going, then yeah, those short study sessions won't help that much. So you just have to make sure that your study plan is efficient and it's organized. So the moment you sit down to study, even a 30-minute study session is going to be immensely helpful for you. Tip number 5, take advantage of your weekends for the longer study sessions and practice exams. So we just talked about how you can break things up potentially during the week. But on the weekends, if you have 2-hour blocks of time, or even more in some cases, take advantage of that. Uninterrupted study. Go to your room, tell everyone to leave you alone. Go to the library, maybe a coffee shop. Put your phone away. Make sure that you're just focused on your SAT studying. And again, the weekends you should have hopefully less going on, and you can spend those extended periods of time for those longer study sessions. And the weekends are a great time to do your practice exams because, as you know, practice exams are lengthy. They take up a lot of headspace. So if you're busy and stressed during the week, don't jam them in. Take them on a Saturday and Sunday in the morning when you're refreshed so you can get a good sense of where you're at when taking them. Tip number 6, study on your way to and from school, assuming you're not driving. If you're driving, maybe you can make audio flashcards, but otherwise, yeah, if you're just hanging out on the way to school, maybe your parents are dropping you off, maybe you take the bus, maybe someone else is driving you, pull out your flashcards and look at them. We haven't talked about flashcards yet in this video, but those are going to be huge for you, not just during your commute to and from school, but in general. But for sure, when going to school, when coming home from school, if you're not driving, pull out those flashcards, do some extra prep. If you have an online app, pull it out, do some extra prep. Those little pockets of time, being able to study during them, it could be a game changer for your SAT prep. Tip number 7, and this is somewhat related to what we just said, study during your free periods. I'm sure you have plenty of them during school. Many of them may be spent hanging out with friends, chatting, doing whatever, maybe even doing homework, but utilize those. Go to the library, pull out your SAT prep stuff, whether it's your online course or your notes or whatever it is, and start studying. Take advantage of that free time, because then maybe you won't have to study later in the day or after you're done with your school day or extracurricular activities. You could knock it out during the day. And furthermore, any pockets of time you have, even not free periods, as we mentioned previously, pull out the flashcards. If you have 10 minutes where you have nothing to do in class and it's okay for you to look at your SAT stuff, pull out the flashcards. Even if you're at an appointment, at the grocery store, you name it, pull them out, study in those pockets of time successfully. Tip number 8, work with a study partner or study group. There may be study partners out there who you know of, there may be study groups out there that you know of. Well, if there are, join one. Ask someone who you know is looking for not help with their SAT prep, but someone just to be a partner in crime with. Work with them. If you guys have similar goals, similar aspirations, goal scores, then it may be a great pairing. If there are no study groups, well, inquire. Make one yourself, even if you have to. These study groups can be done in person. They can be done online. The point is, and I've told you guys this before, don't isolate yourself when you're studying for the SAT. Try to work with other people to stay motivated. And yes, this will help you find time to study when you're dealing with a busy schedule, because you'll be motivated and excited to study with people in your group. And this is just another thing you can do to fit in your study time. Tip number 9, and I know we kind of talked about this earlier, dial down the non-essential activities. Yes, you'd rather be doing a million other things than studying for the SAT. And you could probably say that for your homework too. You'd rather be hanging out with friends, doing things socially. But look, you got to fit the SAT studying in somewhere. So during the time frame when you study for it, you're just going to have to turn off some of the things that you'd rather do. But trust me, if you want a high SAT score, you want a competitive SAT score, you will thank yourself later for doing it. Initially, you might be a little mad about it, but when the SAT is done and you see that amazing score that you get from all of the hard work you put in, you will look at what you did and say, yes, that was worth it. Tip number 10, prepare with effective and organized study materials. This is huge. At TTP, we have an amazing SAT course with a fantastic, organized, structured study plan. Why do kids love it so much? Because it tells them what to do and when and in what order. So when you sit down to study, you know exactly what to do. If you're not using TTP, whatever resource you're using, just make sure the study plan is organized and efficient so that when you sit down to study, like I said, you dive right into your studying. You don't spend 10, 15, 20 minutes figuring out what to do and when, because every moment counts when it comes to your SAT studying. All right, everybody, so that's a wrap on today's video. I had a blast talking about some tips you can follow for studying for the SAT when you have a very busy schedule. If you enjoyed today's video, please subscribe to our videos. If you want to see other videos, leave a comment. I'd be happy to get to videos in the future. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll talk soon.